Hello, friends and enemies. Welcome to my first YouTube video about the Magic the Gathering format known as Canadian Highlander. Canadian Highlander is a 100 card singleton format with no commander or color identity that instead of a ban list has powerful cards pointed, and every deck has an allowance of 10 points. I will put information about the format in the description with a primer for new players. I'm going to be playing on Magic Online, but I wanted to discuss the deck I will be playing. It is my creation inspired by several past decks. This deck is pretty old in concept, but I am trying to work through it, and I think recording matches can be helpful for me and also for you looking to see cool ideas of my opponents, me, this deck. I am also looking for suggestions for the deck, so this is a useful way to get more people's eyes on the deck and to comment on my subpar or mid-tier play. So the deck is called Plague Doctor's Mask. This is the version 2.0. Version 1.0 was very unfocused and didn't have very good results. This one is marginally better. So the point of this deck is it has an attrition style gameplay reminiscent of Pox, the deck that focuses on cards like Smallpox that make each player sacrifice a creature or land, discard a card, and lose a life. I mentioned that in the complete opposite order than it is on the card. It uses discard cards like Inquisition of Kozilek, Collector Brutality, Hymn to Turak, Thoughtseize, Mind Twist to attack the opponent's hand. And lastly, another way it attacks the mana base of our opponent is by using cards like Wasteland and using cards like Strip Mine. So the points of the deck, as you can see in the deck list that will be linked below, is Strip Mine, Mox Jet, Mox Emerald, and Vampiric Tutor. If you're looking at the cost of this deck, this is the price that the deck would cost in paper. Luckily for us, we're not playing in paper, and this deck costs me 5 tickets or $5 per week to rent, which is a lot better than, paying $22,000 for a paper deck. Rental is also a wonderful way to get into the format, since it means that with low investment you can play some of the format's most powerful decks. So let's go over some cards. We have 4 Planeswalkers. These are our potential win conditions. Karn is a card advantage engine that also creates 0/0 constructs that have +1/+1 for each artifact we have in play. Our deck plays a heavy suite of artifacts, and those tokens can often get pretty big. They're really good blockers. They're really good at taking back the initiative, which is a mechanic that has been introduced during the D&D set, which can kind of kill decks like these that don't play a lot of creatures, in our case only 2, because your opponent keeps getting a massive advantage and also can keep doming you for 5 every so often. Liliana of the Veil, the classic Pox card. It discards cards, forces opponents to sacrifice, and if it ever ults, it's almost guaranteed to win the game. Same as with the other Liliana. This Liliana focuses more on the +1. The -2 we'll rarely ever use, maybe in some very niche situations where Murderous Rider somehow ended up in a graveyard, but those are rare situations. We'll mostly be plussing as a continuous removal spell of small creatures like Ragavan the Pilferer is very useful. Starting to Mirthless is a new card that I put into the deck because it is a card advantage engine. It can create 2/3 flyers, which are really good for taking back the initiative, and it's a potential win condition if the board state gets locked up, which is what we want. We only run 2 creatures. The reason for that is Nether Spirit. Nether Spirit is a creature that comes back every upkeep if we have no other creatures in our graveyard, which is why we're only running 2. Murderous Rider is a creature we can run because whenever it dies, we put it on the bottom of our library. It can also be cast as an adventure, destroying target creature or planeswalker, and then being able to be played as a 2/3 lifelinker is very useful. We have a lot of classic removal spells. Bloodchief's Thirst is a cheap removal. Collective Brutality is discard and removal. Damnation, Dead of Winter, and Toxic Deluges are board wipes. Deathcloud is a board wipe, but it's also sort of a win condition. Dreadfuge and other cards like Duress to discard opponent's cards. Single target removal that get around targeting protection like Innocent Blood. Maelstrom Pulse that can get rid of planeswalkers and permanents. The same with Witherbloom Command. And yeah, we have for instance, we have Assassin's Trophy, Abrupt Decay, all really good cards. Vampiric Tutors are last 2 points because it can find every card in the deck. Crop Rotation is no longer a point, which lets us get our huge array of utility lands, our Strip Mine, our Wasteland that can be used to win the game. Cling to Dust is a really underrated card on first glance because it looks like it doesn't do anything, but it gets out of hand really quickly because we pump our graveyard full of cards with effects like Life from the Loam. So we'll constantly be able to pinpoint exile threats from our opponent's graveyard and potentially draw cards or gain life out of it. Entomb is here for 2 cards probably. It can be used for lands as well, but Life from the Loam and Nether Spirit are our favorite targets. Nether Spirit is my favorite target. So now we have some artifacts. We have Arkham's Astrolabe that fixes because we play a lot of snow lands. We have Ensnaring Bridge, which basically means our opponent can't attack us, and if they don't have reach in the way of burn, a lot of game positions can lock up. We have a bunch of ramp and Moxen. Codex Shredder's here to mill us and to return our really good artifacts later in the game. Crucible of Worlds is one of our combo pieces, which allows us to recur Strip Mine and Wasteland to keep continually destroying lands. We have Dungeoneer's Pack. Initiative's kind of a problem. This is one of the ways we can get it. And also, if we're playing against decks that also don't care about creatures, getting the initiative helps us a lot because it is a win condition on its own. Expedition Map lets us find any land, which again, we can find all of our utility lands. We have some more mana artifacts. Nile's Spellbomb and Relic of Progenitus are graveyard hate, specifically for a lot of decks that can kill us by recurring to their graveyard. Piffing Needle is here to stop activate abilities of either artifacts or other shenanigans. Smokestack is an old-timey stacks card that probably shouldn't be in here, but we can break parity on it, and we love our opponent slowly losing resources, so why not? Talisman is another ramp card. Dirac, classical. If your opponent has 3 or less cards, they'll take X minus 3 minus X, where X is the amount of cards in their hands. So, like, if they have 0 cards, they'll take 3 each upkeep. Torpor is here again because of the initiative. Initiative is kind of annoying for our deck, and we want to stop it any way possible. Trading Post is a good card to help us survive, gaining life, creating tokens, and recurring artifacts. Zern Orb is a combo piece that can sacrifice lands. Also, it can sacrifice lands in a pitch to help us survive. Uba Mask is the Plague Doctor's Mask. It's the namesake of the deck. It's really good against blue decks that don't want their counterspells to disappear. Basically, if our opponent is a blue deck, they draw a counterspell, they have to play during their turn, or they won't get access to it at all, which makes it really awkward for them. Chains of Mephistopheles is a card that has a lot of text on it. Basically, it translates to if your opponent or you ever try to draw outside of your normal draw step, you have to discard a card. So it basically means that, like, wheels don't work, card advantage like Ancestral Recall doesn't work, anything that goes, any card draw doesn't work. Sensitive Divine Top also gets worse because it can never truly get the card you need. Drop of Honey is a lot like Porphyry Nodes, except in real life this card costs $500 compared to Porphyry Nodes 5. But this is green and we love it because it keeps eating away at our creatures. It also tempts the opponent to either keep playing into it to try and overtake us, which we love, or they have to wait it out, which we also like because it buys us time. If it's a 1 mana remove a creature spell in green, we've already done our job. Fastbond is a combo card. It basically allows us to play any amount of lands we want, but for every additional land we play, we take 1 damage. We have ways to stop us from taking damage, like Zern Orb, to break parity, like Zern Orb, or cards that say we don't take damage, like this land, Glacial Chasm. And finally, we have Nethervoid. Nethervoid is a card which, yeah, it's pretty good against combo decks and control decks because a lot of our stuff is cheap. Our deck tops out at 4, ignoring Death Cloud that can like potentially go up. So we don't mind it as much as our opponents will, and us constantly removing their lands will basically mean Nethervoid is a soft lock. We have Bazaar of Baghdad. Bazaar of Baghdad combos with Uba Mask, which is amazing. We also have Inventor's Fair to fetch us any artifact. Urza Saga, one of the best lands in the format. And I just realized that I should be running Sylvan Library because Sylvan Library combos with Uba Mask. So you're seeing us pull back the curtains on this one. The production quality is through the roof. And we have to take out... I will think about what I'll take out later. It'll probably be a land because we do have a lot, but it's dangerous to take out lands. Bury Ruin gets artifacts back from the graveyard. Castle Lochwain is a card advantage engine. We have a bunch of effects to destroy. Caracas is here as basically a colorless land that makes legendary creatures go back to their hand. We have Yavimaya and Urborg to fix our mana. And that's about it. It's the deck. The deck's pretty sweet. It plays interestingly. It has awful matchups, but it also has really good matchups. So it's kind of a 70-30 deck where like it loses 30% of the matchups it plays loses, but it wins against board-based aggro decks or really slow control decks, because against slow control decks it tries to grind them out, and against creature-based decks that don't have a lot of reach, we have a lot of removal and continual ways to stop them from approaching. So yeah, this is a deck, and I will be showcasing some games in the videos to come.